Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Nancy, and if this is your first time here, you're also welcome. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this Bubu dress with the collar and keel. So if this is what you're interested in, so keep watching. To make this dress, you need two different Ankara prints. Now for the body of this dress, I made use of 3.5 yards of this Ankara print. And for the sides of the dress with the collar, I made use of 1 yard of this Ankara print. So this is a crinoline mesh that will be placed on the sides of this dress, and I made use of 8 yards. So this is the fabric I'm using for the main dress, and it's 3 yards. So the first thing you should do is to fold the width of this fabric into two equally. Now from this edge of the fold, I would fold the fabric into two equally on this side. So I practically folded this fabric into four. So this side of the fold will be for the neckline, while this other side would be for the sleeve opening. Now for the neck measurements, I would place my tape from this fold to mark the neck width, which is 3 inches. For a plus size person, you should mark 4 inches. For the neck depth of the back piece, I marked 1 inch to connect both points together. To mark the neckline for the front piece, I placed my tape vertically to mark 3 inches. For a plus size person, you should mark 3.5 inches. Now I connected the neck depth of the front piece to the neck width. After that, the next step is to mark the length of the keyhole. So I'll place my tape from the neck depth of the front piece vertically to mark 6 inches. The next step is to mark the midpoint between the neck depth of the front piece to this new point you marked, which is 3 inches here. Now from this 3 inches point, I would mark half an inch to connect the 3 points together as shown. Now I'll place my tape from this fold to mark my shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 7 inches. Now every other measurement that comes after this point I marked will be the sleeve length for this dress. So sleeve length on 16 inches is very okay. I'll go ahead to just work with the entire fabric. Now I placed my tape from the shoulder to mark the full length of this dress. The full length of this dress is 58 inches. So I added 2 inches to an allowance to the hem, which made it 60 inches altogether. The next step is to trim out the neckline for the back piece alone, and to also trim out any extra fabric on the bottom of this dress. Now I'll go ahead to spread out the fold so I can easily trim out the neckline for the front piece. So make sure that the sides are equal before trimming out the neckline for the front piece. Alright, now I'm trimming out the curved neckline and also going to be trimming out the keyhole as shown. After you've done this, you will spread the fabric out to be a single piece. The next step is to cut a facing for the keyhole. So this piece here is what I would be using for the facing. The length of this piece is 10 inches while the width is 5 inches. So I would place this below the keyhole as shown to trim out exactly the same shape. Now I flipped the fabric to the right side of the fabric and placed the right side of the facing directly on the keyhole to secure the edges of the keyhole by ½ inch following the direction of the chalk. After the facing has been properly secured, you'd flip it to the wrong side of the fabric and take this to the ironing board to flat press the keyhole properly. The next step is to take the measurements of the round neckline. Now I placed my tape starting from this edge and making sure that the tape is on a standing position. And when I go to the other end, I had 18 inches. This simply means that the neck circumference is 18 inches. Now for the collar, I'll be using this paper as a template. I folded the paper into two. Since the round neck circumference is 18 inches, I divided it by two and I had 9 inches. So I placed my tape to mark 9 inches and connected the 2 points together. Now I placed my tape on this 9 inches line to mark the midpoint. Now on the tip of this line, I marked half inch to connect this point to the midpoint. I want the length of the bishop collar to be 1 inch, so I placed the tape on this line to mark 1 inch above the line and connected all points together. The next step is to make a little curve on this side. So these edges isn't needed anymore. And that is all for the collar band. Now for the collar fold, I'll place my tape from this fold to mark the neck circumference divided by 2, which is 9 inches as well, and connect the 2 points together. I want the length of the collar to be 2.5 inches, so I place my tape from this point to mark 2.5 inches above this line and connected the points together. Now I went ahead to mark the midpoint of this line. And from the center of the fold on this side, I marked half inch to connect the point to this midpoint as shown. Now to get the collar spread, I marked 1 inch here and connected this point to this angle. So for this style, I'll be extending the collar spread. And to do this, I placed my tape from the tip of the initial collar spread to extend it to about 5 inches and connected the 2 points together. Now I use the curve side of the ruler to connect the tip of the collar spread to the initial measurement on this side. So these edges is also not needed. The next step is to trim out the edges. After cutting this template, you should place it on a collar stay interfacing to cut out exactly the same shape. Once you have cut out the collar stay, you should place it on the Ankara fabric and add half inch to the sides for the sewing allowance. So that was just one piece of the collar, and this will be the second piece serving as the lining for the collar. Now I'll place the right side of each collar on each other to secure the sides following the direction of the chalk. And when I got to this end, I stopped stitching. On this side, there will be an opening to turn the collar to the right side of the fabric. So the collar fold is ready. I'll fold it into two to notch the center. So this is a collar band without a paper stay. I would also fold it into two to notch the center. So yeah, kindly take note of how I place the collar on the collar band, making sure that the center point is aligned. Now on the edge of the collar band, I placed my tape here to mark the midpoint and also mark the midpoint on this other side. So the essence of marking this point is to know where to place the strap. So here I have two straps that is properly sewn. The next thing I'll do is to place the edges of the strap inward directly on the points I chalked. And on this other side, I'll be placing one edge of the strap directly on the point I chalked as well. Now I'll go ahead to place the second part of the collar band directly on it. Now to stitch this properly, I'll be folding this edge in by half inch and then I'll take this to the sewing machine to secure the edges by half inch. And when I get to this other end of the edges, I'll be folding here by half inch inward as well. Alright, the collar is ready and the next step is to attach it to the neckline of the dress. So on this side of the collar band without the collar stay, I'll be placing the edges directly on the wrong side of the neckline to pin all through. After pinning, I attach the neckline to the edges by half inch. Alright, so this has been attached and the next step is to cover the seam allowance. So I'll take this to the sewing machine to secure the edges of the collar band. Alright, the collar is ready and you can see how beautiful this is. So the next thing I'll do here is to fold this dress into two equally as shown. The next step is to know the length of the band you need on the side of this dress. So I placed my tape from the shoulder line to mark the full length of this dress. So here it's 60 inches. This simply means that the length on the back piece would also be 60 inches as well. So 60 times 2 will give me 120. So the length of this band here is 120 inches. It might require you to join the fabrics together to achieve that length since it's very long. Now to know the width of the band you need, you take the width of the crinoline. What I have here is 3.5 inches. So I would add extra 1.5 inches to that and altogether it will be 5 inches. So the width of my band should be 5 inches. Now I'll take this to the ironing board to fold one side of the edges by half inch. One thing you should take note of is that this band is just for one side of the dress. You would also cut another band for the second side of the dress. Alright guys, so now I'll spread out the dress as a single piece to place the band on the right side of the fabric starting from the hem, making sure that these edges of the band that wasn't folded is placed directly on the edges of the dress as shown. Now I'll go ahead to place the crinoline directly on the edges as well. Then I'll take this to my sewing machine to stitch the edges by half inch until the stitching gets to the end of the back piece. Alright, so once that side has been stitched, you also need to place the second band directly on these edges. I would also repeat the same sewing process by placing the crinoline directly on the edges to stitch by half inch all through. So I get to the other end of the hem. After stitching the band and the crinoline to the side of this dress, the next step is to fold in the seam allowance to the band direction. Then you take this to the sewing machine to top stitch directly on these edges. And you should also do the same top stitching process on this other side of the band. After top stitching the band, the next step is to fold the band to the wrong side of the dress. So this will be very easy because initially I folded these edges in by half inch using the pressing iron. So now I'll stitch the edges so I get to the end of the band, and I'll also do the same for the other side of the band. So the sides have been properly secured. Make sure you take this to the ironing board to make a flat press directly on this band. The next step is to place your body measurements. Now I would place my tape from the shoulder vertically downwards to mark my nipple points. And I'll be placing this on the center front of this dress. So this nipple point is a reference in knowing how wide you want the sleeve opening to be. The next line is the waistline. So I placed my tape from my shoulder vertically downwards to mark my waistline, and my waistline is 15 inches. So the next line I'll be marking here is my hip line. My hip line is 25 inches. So this is my bust point. my waist points, and my hip points. Before going further, I would make this visible by connecting the 3 points together on the center front of this front piece. Now on the bust points, I would place the bust circumference divided by 4, which is 8.5 inches. I placed it directly on the center line and marked 8.5 inches from this side, and also marked 8.5 inches on this other side. Now I would add extra 2 inches sewing allowance on both sides. On the waistline, I placed the waist circumference divided by 4, which is 7.5 inches. I placed it on the center point to mark 7.5 inches here, and also 7.5 inches on the other side. Now I went ahead to also add 2 inches sewing allowance to the sides as well, and then connected the waist circumference to the bust circumference as shown. Now I divided my hip circumference into 4, and I had 9.5 inches. So I placed it on the midpoint to mark 9.5 inches on this side, and to also mark 9.5 inches on the other side as well. Now I'll also go ahead to mark 2 inches sewing allowance to the sides. Then connect the waist circumference to the hip circumference as shown. So now I would keep extending the hip circumference vertically downwards. For this dress, you need to make a slit at the bottom so you can easily walk. To do this, you should place your tape vertically upward from the hem of this dress to mark 15 inches, and you should also do same on the other side. Now I'll take this to the sewing machine to make the stitching, starting directly from this top, following the direction of the chalk. And when I get to the end of this chalked line, I'll stop stitching. Alright guys, so I've stitched it, and this is how the sides of the Bubu dress should be. The final step is to secure the hem of this Bubu dress separately by folding the hem in by 1 inch and further folding it in by 1 inch. Alright guys, so you can see that this is the final outcome of the dress. It's very beautiful. Like, you should give it a try, and if you're new to my channel, kindly subscribe, share and like my videos.